Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the webinar on Candy Valuation Quantities. My name is Johan Stein, and I'm a technical consultant at CCS. It is my pleasure to present this webinar to you. Today, I will be showing you how to use Candy's Valuation Quantity functionality. We will commence with the basics in order to ensure that everyone is of a fairly similar level of understanding as we go through to some of the more advanced functionalities. Due to the large number of people logged onto this webinar, we will not be able to answer any questions during the webinar. However, please submit your questions during the session with the provided function on screen. At the end of the webinar, we will collate these questions and send the answers to everybody that has registered for this webinar via email. Please note that this webinar will be recorded and you will receive a link to watch it at your own leisure. There's a webinar once a month on various Candy topics. Should you not be able to attend the webinar at the given time frame, then please still register for the webinar, as this will entitle you to receive a recorded copy of the webinar. Let's get started. So firstly, we're going to look at some valuation quantities and what we'll be covering in this webinar. So we'll have a look at valuation quantities. We'll have a look at the calculation of valuation quantities, so the different methods, valuation update, valuation report, and then we'll also have a look at the impact of valuation quantities for project cost and allowables. So the Candy valuations is used for the post-tender stage of a project. The bill of quantities created in Candy estimating is still available in Candy valuations. The difference between estimating and valuations is the extra valuation quantity columns, the valuation layouts, and the valuation reports. Let's have a look at some of the various valuation quantities. So firstly, I have my final quantity. This is my anticipated ultimate quantity of a bill item. Then I have my actual quantity. So I have a cumulative to-date actual quantity, actual previous quantity, actual month's quantity, next month's quantity, and actual number of quantity. Then our claimed quantity is also a cumulative to-date quantity. I have claimed previous quantity and claimed month's quantity. My paid quantity is also cumulative to date. I have previous paid quantity and paid month's quantity. From that, I have then derived quantities. My variation quantity is my bill, my final minus my bill. Then my remaining quantity is final minus actual. My outstanding bill quantity is bill minus claimed. My outstanding final quantity is final minus claimed. And then requested month's quantity is claimed minus previous paid. Then we have some subcontract quantities. We have subcontract awarded quantity. Subcontract unawarded is my liability quantity, as a final minus subcontract awarded quantity. I have subcontract due quantity, subcontract pay quantity, and subcontract liability quantity, which is my actual minus my subcontractor paid quantity. Then we also have some miscellaneous quantities, which is my user quantity and archive quantity. So now that we've established the different valuation quantities, let's go and have a look at the primary valuation quantities used in Candy. So my final quantity, we said, is the anticipated ultimate quantity of a bill item. The final quantity is used at the post-tender to calculate the remaining cost when using the cost rate worksheets and the remaining quantities. Just a hint, by right-clicking on the final quantity, one can open up a calc panel where detailed measurements can be recorded to calculate the quantity. If there is a calc panel, a green indicator is displayed in the field of that specific quantity. Then my actual quantity, the actual cumulative quantity to date for a bill item. Used for internal reporting, it measures the actual amount of work done. My actual quantities can be typed in, measured on a calc sheet or a calc panel, can reflect the claim quantity, copied from other quantities columns, example QTO, copied from areas and my subcontract manager. So changing the actual month's quantity will change the actual cumulative quantity. So the following equation must always balance. cumulative actual quantity equals my month's actual plus my previous actual. Then we have claimed quantity, the quantity to be claimed for the work done to date. Our claimed quantities can also be typed in, measured on a calc sheet or calc panel, can reflect the actual quantity, copied from other quantity columns, example QTO. Changing the claimed month's quantity will change the claimed cumulative quantity. The following equation must always balance. My cumulative claim quantity equals my month's claim plus my previous claim. Paid quantity is the quantity used by the client to calculate the payment to date. My paid quantities can be typed in, can reflect the claim quantity. By changing the month's paid quantity, will change the paid cumulative quantity. And then the following equation must always balance. My cumulative paid quantity is my month's paid plus my previous paid. Now let's go and have a look at our candy. Right, so as I enter the valuation application for the first time, I will have to do an initial setup for my monthly progress of the quantities. So as I click on my document manager, it will open up the initial valuation setup dialog box for me. I now have the opportunity to go and select the date. I'm going to select the 25th of October. I then also have the opportunity to go and give this valuation a title. And I'm going to give it the title Certificate 1. Click on OK. From here, I would want to open up my Valuation Setup Manager. So to do that, I would go and click on the menu Main, then select Valuation Setup Manager, and then to refresh this document, I would click on Calculate. So where there is no final quantity, Candy would automatically then reflect the bill allowable amount as the final for the time being. I will cover the rest of the allowable amounts as I progress with the webinar. Let's go and have a look at the different document layouts that I've set up beforehand to save some time and to discuss the different valuation quantities. Firstly, let's have a look at the to-date document layout. So I would open up my document manager and open up document 2.2, my to-date quantities. So this layout will show me all the primary valuation quantities I covered in the overview. The next step would be to copy the bill quantity to the final quantity, as I have not done a remeasure of the final quantities yet. Remember that the final quantity is the anticipated ultimate quantity of a bill item. So to do this, I would right-click in the column header for final quantity. I would then go to the option Copy from Selected Quantity. My source is going to be then my bill quantity. Candy just wants to know if I want to copy my bill to my final. Say yes. And then Candy gives me the number of quantities that has been copied successfully. Let's go and have a look now at the different calculation methods of my valuation quantities. So the first method that I'll be looking at is the calculation or the quantity calc panel. So the quantity calc panel is used to take off quantities against bill items. I'm going to use that to do my first valuation quantity for the certificate on the item clear and strip site. So to open up the actual quantity calc panel, I would select the actual quantity for clear and strip site, and then right click on that cell to display the right click menu. On this menu, I would then select quantity calc panel and select Display Quantity Calc Panel. Now please note that I'm not going to explain the Quantity Calc Panel in detail, as it's not part or the purpose of this webinar, and it will be explained in a future webinar. So once the Quantity Calc Panel is open, I can move it around on my screen to where I am comfortable with it. I can now switch between different quantities for this specific item, and then I can also go and select the formula that I would like to use for this specific calculation. I'm going to use the multiplier option for my actual quantity to go and do a calculation for actual quantity. Alright, so now that I've done my calculation, I have a total of 5,400 square meters. If I'm happy with that, I can now go and click on the button Store Sheet. As soon as I click on that button, it gives me the option to go and store this sheet. I'm going to select my store mode, which is the rounding mode, so it's going to store after rounding on the 4 to 5 rule, and then I'm going to store and return to the BOQ document. So now that I've done my calculation and I've stored it, I can close my calc panel, and you'll see now that I have an actual quantity of 5,400 square meters, and you'll also see the green indicator indicating that there's a calc panel behind that specific quantity. You would then also notice that my actual reflects in my claimed reflects in my paid. This is because of the quantity default order. I can at any stage change the default quantity order by clicking on Tools, then selecting Valuation Quantity Tools and set the quantity default order. I now have the following options to select from. Number 1, my actual will reflect in my claimed, and my claimed will reflect in my paid. The second option is where my claim reflects in my paid and my paid reflects in my actual. The third option I have is my claimed reflects in my paid quantity. For this exercise, I'm going to leave it on option number 1 so that my actual reflects in my claim and my claim reflects in my paid. I can click on the green tick, tells me it's complete. The next method that I would be using is my actual percentage final column. So to update my last item for earthworks, I would use this actual percentage final column. This column would then show me the actual quantity as a percentage of the final quantity. So if a quick valuation needs to be done, I can use this option to update my valuation quantities. Let's say that the excavate in bulk item is also 100% complete. So I would now type in 100 in the actual percentage final column. This will then update my actual quantity with 100% of my final quantity for this specific item. And again, you'll see because of my quantity default order, it shows me my actual reflected in my claim and my claim reflected in my paid. Right, the next quantity method or calculation method that I'm going to use is my QTO, or known as the quantity takeoff. So I'm going to close this document. I'll open up my specific document that I created with my QTO columns. And as you can see there, I have done 3 calculations, 3 takeoffs for my concrete items on QTO. They're displayed in those grayed out columns. So just to show you where I got those quantities from, I'm going to open up QTO and quickly take you through it, how I linked my bill item to a specific takeoff. So in valuations, I would then click on the menu Advanced. I would then click on my QTO manager. I would then see my QTO manager with a list of takeoff packages. I'm going to open up my first takeoff package. It opens up QTO for me. I would then go and select the drawing that I've attached to this package. I would open up the drawing, and the drawing will then be displayed on my right hand side. From there, I would then go and click on my measure folder. So in the measure folder, I can create different folders that I can do measurements in. I'm going to select my blinding actual folder, and you'll see it will show me the markup of that folder on my drawing. From there, I would then open up my takeoff list, and there is my takeoff for that specific measure folder. I can also go and open up the calculation sheet or the takeoff sheet for the specific takeoff. You'll see there is my description. I've measured it as an actual quantity. The color was red. It shows me my dimensions. And right at the bottom, I can then go and link a bill item to the specific takeoff. And in that formula box, I can then go and populate and calculate a quantity for this specific item. Right, so to use the QTO quantity measured, I will select all 3 concrete items by using my shift-click option. So I would select the first item, press down Shift on my keyboard, select the last item for the range. In the blue area, I would then right-click. I would then use the option to copy from selected quantity. I would then select my source as my QTO actual quantity, because that's the quantity that I measured in QTO. Green tick that. Are you sure you want to copy QTO actual to my main actual? Yes. And it shows me that the number of 3 quantities have been copied across. As you can see, it shows me about 8 decimalizations. What I can do is I can take that decimalization down to 2 decimals. So to do that, I would right-click in my column header. I would then go to the option Quantity Decimalization. In the drop-down menu, select 2 decimals and click on OK. And there I have my 2 decimal quantity. Again, because of my default quantity order, I now have my actual reflecting in my claim and my claim reflecting in my paid. Right, our next quantity calculation method that we're going to use is our subcontract manager. The subcontract manager is used at post-tender to handle the project subcontractors, where each subcontractor has a bill which can be updated for monthly certificates. By updating the subcontractor bill, I can update the main valuation's actual quantity with the subcontractor's due quantity. To show you what I've done, I'm going to close all of this and go to my subcontract. So in the subcontract manager, I would then open up my subcontract manager, and it shows me a list of all my subcontract packages that I've created. As you can see there, I've created a package for my formwork. I can select my package and open up the subcontractor bill for that specific package. You can see there is my subcontractor bill for formwork. I have awarded rates and awarded quantities for this package. I can then go to my subcontract document manager and open up document 1.3, which is my subcontract bill with progress update. So as you can see as well, I've already done an update for this specific package. So there's my due quantities for the subcontractor. And those due quantities I would then use to go and update my main valuation. I can then close everything on my screen. And in valuations, there is a specific document to deal with the subcontract update quantities. So I would click on my valuation document manager and open up document 8.2, which is my BOQ with subcontract update. Right, so on this document, you can see then for the formwork items, the subcontract package that is linked to those bill items. Then also my actual quantity from the main bill is also displayed. I can now go and right-click in that actual quantity column and then select to update from my subcontract due quantity. Again, I would use my shift click to select the range. I want to update both quantities simultaneously. I can then right-click in the blue area, and then I have an option to say update from subcontract due quantity. It says just do you want to update your actual quantity from the subcontract due quantity? Click on yes. It shows me the amount of quantities that's been copied. And there is my formwork items updated from the subcontract due quantities. Our next calculation method that we're going to use is our bill quantity takeoff. So the bill takeoff system works with bill items, and it calculates bill, final, actual, and claimed quantities for these bill items based then on common measurements. So the bill items are then dragged from the BOQ and placed together with other bill items that use the same common measurements. Each of these bill items has then 4 factors that can be multiplied by common measurements to calculate its quantity. The quantity produced for each bill item is part of its bill or final quantity. The actual and claimed quantities are then calculated as a percentage of the bill or the final for each of those bill items on the specific takeoff. You can also update the bill with any of or all of these quantities anytime you wish or whenever you wish. So I'm going to show you that I do have a bill quantity takeoff package for our joints item. So in valuations, I would also go to the menu advanced. In advanced, I would then go to the manual takeoff menu. From there, I would then select my bill quantity takeoff. It shows me my bill takeoff manager where I can list different takeoff packages. I would then select my first takeoff package, open that package, and then size that package to the top half. Click on my bill and size that to the bottom half. I can then go and drag my joints item onto my bill takeoff document. So it shows me the item and the page number where that item comes from. I can then put in +2, which means I'm going to measure linear meters. I would then put in number of 5 and a length of 20. So I'm going to measure 5 joints with a length of 20 meters. And I can put in my description as an additional grid line 1, 2, and AB. After I've done that, I can then go and update my final quantity by using that calculation. And then as you can see, for my joints, I then have a final quantity of 150 meters. I'm going to open up my document 2.2 again, just to do an update for my specific joints item. So I can also use here, I'm just going to use my actual percentage final column to go and update my joints item. So I'm going to type in 50%. Now it just shows me that my actual quantity is more than my bill quantity, which is 100% fine because we updated our final quantity. So I can close that message. And there it shows me my 75 meters under actual. Again, of the quantity default order, it shows me my actual in my claim, and my claim shows in my paid quantity. The last method that I'm just going to mention to you guys is the area bills. So because of our time, I'm not going to go into detail there, but I'm just going to explain it to you. So areas are used to isolate sections or areas of a contract for measurement and control purposes. Areas provide a location-based control within a construction project. Each area has an area bill that must contain main bill items. The measurements from the area bills can then be used to update the main bill. I'm going to close this document after I've done with my valuation, and then I'm going to open up my valuation setup manager again. To do that again, I'll go to main and select valuation setup manager. To refresh this screen again, the document, I would click on calculate. And now I can see my current allowable, my actual to-date allowable, a remaining allowable, and my final allowable. So my actual to-date allowable would be my to-date allowable on my cost report. Then my remaining allowable amount will be my remaining allowable on the cost report. But I will share more on the cost report a bit later in the webinar. The next thing that we can go and have a look at is our valuation reports. So we want to go and see what we can then produce from these quantities that we've just typed in. I'm going to close everything on my screen, go to the report manager, and you'll see there I've customized 4 documents or 4 reports that we are going to have a look at. My first report that we want to have a look at is my valuation selling bill carried forward, brought forward. So this report is the certificate generated and then can be given to the client or the PQS. It is based on my claimed quantity from valuations and my selling rate. So let's go and preview this document. So as you can see, there's my bill. It has then my claimed quantity, my selling rate, and then a claimed selling amount. If I go to the last page of this document, it then shows me my summary page, and it shows me then my claimed selling amount, the total for this project. I'm going to close this report. The next report that we are going to have a look at is my resource allowable grouped by resource type for this project on bill, actual, remaining, and final quantities. Let's go and have a look. I'm going to preview the report. And if I zoom in, I can then see there's my resources grouped by resource type. And then I can see my bill quantity usage, actual quantity usage, remaining, and final quantity usage. That is then all based on the quantities that I've typed in and calculated in valuations. I'm going to close this report. The next report that I will show you is then the resource allowable grouped by cost code for this project, also on bill, actual, remaining, and final quantity. Let's go and preview this report. Right, so this report then shows me my resources grouped by cost code, and it shows me again my bill, actual, remaining, and final usages. You'll also see each cost code has then a sum or a total against each. This will also be shown on my cost and allowable reporting. I'm going to close this report. And the last report that we're going to have a look at is my final account. So it's the difference between my bill and my final quantity, and it will show me then the variance. Let's go and preview this report. So if I preview this report, I can then go and see if my bill and final quantity varies. And if I scroll down, I can see my joints item varies with 100 meters. So this report can then be used for my final accounts. I'm going to close this report. Alright, so now that I've done the first valuation and I'm happy with it, when the time comes for the second valuation to be done, I can do the following. So firstly, we will need to duplicate and rename this job in the job manager. To do that, I would click on the candy button in the top left-hand corner. I would right-click on valuation number 1 and duplicate the job. I can right-click on it and rename it to call it valuation number 2. I can now select this job, and then under valuations I would go and access my valuation setup manager again. So I would click on main, click on valuation setup manager, right, so this now shows me all the information from valuation 1. So the next step would be then to click on the button in the bottom right corner which says next valuation. It then asks me if I want to back up this information. If I click on yes, it gives me my 3 options to back up to my common, my archive, or a file. For now, I'm not going to back it up. I'm just going to click on the red cross. And it gives me the next setup of the valuation. I'm going to select my new date. It's going to be the 25th of November. Candy automatically knows that it's valuation number 2. And now I'm going to rename the title to call it Certificate 2. Click on OK. And then click on Calculate to refresh the document. So as you can see now, my current of valuation 1 has become the previous of valuation number 2. The current of certificate number 2 now is blank, which means I can now go and update my quantities for certificate 2. Right, so remember now that there's not only just an actual to date column in valuations, but I also have previous actual and months actual columns to work with. Let's go and have a look at the document with this layout. So I would clear this from my screen, click on my document manager and select document 2.2c, previous month and to date quantities. So as you can see there, my previous actual quantity has been populated with the actual quantity to date of last month. My month's actual quantity column is now empty, and then I have my actual quantity, which is a cumulative to date quantity. So when I now want to go and update the quantities for valuation number 2, I can then use the actual percentage final column and update all of section 2's quantities as 100% complete, which is my ventilation shaft section. So I would go to the actual percentage final, and I would then go and update those quantities as 100% complete. So I would type in my 100%, and then I'm going to use my shortcut, which is Control-J, to copy that 100% to the rest of those items. Again, it just tells me that my claimed or my actual quantity is now more than my bill quantity. I'm fine with that. Click on Close. And there I've updated section number 2 or section 2 ventilation shaft as 100% complete. For section 3, which is my substation yard, I'm going to update those brickwork items as 50% complete. So in my actual percentage final column, I would then punch in again 50 and then use Control-J to calculate the rest of those items. Now, as you can see here, my month's actual quantity has now been populated with the difference of my previous and my actual to date quantity. After I've done this, I can now go back to my valuation setup manager to see the impact that these quantities has now made on certificate number 2. So I'll click on the magic tool button to clear everything from my screen. Click on Main, Access Valuation Setup Manager. And then to refresh the document, I would click on Calculate. And there it shows me now a current for certificate number 2. So now I would see then my actual to date amount for certificate number 2 would be then the previous plus the current to give me my actual to date. Then my final minus my actual to date would then show me a remaining quantity. So these amounts will then be the amounts that we can see on the month's cost and allowable documents. Once I'm done with that and I'm happy with that, I can close everything on my screen. So then, to see the effect that these valuation quantities will have on the project cost and allowables, I will now switch to the tab Cost and Allowables. and then open up document 1.1, my cost and allowable by period. So I'll click on my document manager, select on document 1.1, I can now see my current period allowable, my to date allowable, and my remaining and at completion allowable. So my current allowable would be based on this month's quantity times my net rate. My to date allowable would then be based on my to date quantity times my net rate. My remaining allowable would then be based on the remaining quantity times the net rate. And then my at completion allowable will then be based on my final quantity times my net rate. Now you'll also see I have a remaining cost. The remaining cost there is calculated by using my remaining quantity and my cost worksheets or my cost rate in post-tender. So that brings us to the end of this webinar. So thank you so much for your time, and I trust that you now have a greater insight into Candy Valuation Quantities. So please remember to email your local CCS office if you want to know more about these valuation quantities. We will keep you informed of the next webinar, and remember, if you're unable to join on the selected time, please still register, as you will receive a recording which you can then watch at your own time. Enjoy the rest of your day. Until the next webinar, goodbye for now.